One brand, nearly 18 consecutive years of losses, close to £60 million in the red. Yet the brand never closed, its founder never wavered, and her husband never stopped writing the checks. Everyone keeps asking the same question. What exactly is Victoria Beckham holding on to? I want to give you an answer that no one has offered before. The lens I'm using is one of the oldest destiny analysis systems in the world. Chinese BaZi, a 3,000-year-old framework built on the energy of your exact birth date and time. This is not astrology. This is not tarot. It's a structural map of your life's energy, precise enough to reveal the dominant theme of every decade you'll ever live through. When I opened Victoria's chart, 3 things became immediately clear. Why she was never going to be poor, why her marriage has never truly been just the two of them, and what is quietly shifting in her life right now, in 2026. Let's start with money, because this is the foundation of everything else. In BaZi, there's a concept called the wealth vault. It doesn't measure how much you earn. It measures something far more rare, whether you're actually capable of keeping what comes to you. Some people earn well their entire lives and still end up with very little. The money flows in and it flows right back out. Others are built differently. Once wealth enters their orbit, it tends to stay. Victoria belongs to the second category. Her chart contains a structure that is genuinely uncommon. The energy pillar corresponding to her birth month carries a natural water element reservoir. In Eastern metaphysics, water represents flowing wealth and resources, and the energy sitting in her marriage palace forms what we call a half combination with that reservoir. Think of it as a key that has been sitting in the lock of her wealth vault since the day she was born. It never left. What this tells us is that her marriage and her wealth have always been structurally intertwined. They were never two separate things. This is why the brand losses don't tell the full story. That £60 million was never simply disappearing. It was being converted into brand equity, personal IP, and aesthetic legacy. None of these appear on a financial statement, but in the architecture of her chart, they have been compounding quietly the entire time. And David's continued investment in her brand isn't just loyalty or love. In the structure of their shared destiny, their financial interests have always been deeply bound together. He isn't funding her dream. He is protecting a shared asset. I've built fashion brands myself. I know exactly how brutal this industry is. I chose to launch during the decade my own chart identified as the right window. And I chose to exit when the energy began to shift. Victoria's structure is different from mine. Her vault gives her the capacity to play a game that most people simply cannot afford to play. This isn't stubbornness. This is the quiet confidence of someone whose foundation structurally holds. Now, the part of the chart that requires the most careful reading. In BaZi, the symbol representing a woman's husband is called the husband star. Victoria's husband star sits in the most prominent position in her entire chart. The year pillar, the column that shapes public image, and the foundational tone of a person's entire life. The nature of this star is what we call the 7 killing star. In plain language, a man who commands extraordinary presence, magnetic, dominant, driven by a will that resists being contained. David Beckham. No further explanation needed. But the complexity lives elsewhere in her chart. The energy pillar corresponding to her birth month carries a competing female energy, one that shares the same elemental nature as Victoria herself. And this energy has a structural gravitational pull toward her husband's star. This is not a moral observation. It is simply a description of what the energy map shows. Her husband's energy field, by structural design, generates a sustained attraction toward women of a similar type. The well-documented events of 2004 occurred during a specific 10-year cycle in Victoria's chart. The structure of that cycle showed something very specific. Her marriage palace was being penetrated by an external female energy, and that intrusion was connected to the world of money and professional resources, the world David operated in at the peak of his football fame. The alignment with what is publicly known is exact. After 2018, she entered a new decade-long cycle, and within that cycle, her husband's star once again shows a tendency to be drawn toward external energies. This is not a claim about any specific event. It is a description of a structural tension that has never fully resolved. Victoria has always needed to invest considerable energy and resources to maintain the stability of this relationship, and her wealth vault has always given her precisely the capacity to do that. The brand in this light is not just a creative project. It is one of the most important structural threads holding their shared world together, which brings us to right now, 2026. The energy of this year forms a direct oppositional clash with the core energy sitting in Victoria's marriage palace. In BaZi, we call this a Zi-Wu clash. Two forces of completely opposing nature striking head-on at the most sensitive point in her relational energy field. Now here's what this actually means and what it doesn't. A clash in classical metaphysics is not a verdict. It doesn't say the structure breaks. It says the structure can no longer stay exactly as it was. Think about what has held this partnership together for nearly 3 decades. A carefully constructed public image, a financial architecture so deeply intertwined that pulling one thread risks unraveling others. Two people who learned, very early, that their combined brand was worth considerably more than either of them alone. That calculus doesn't disappear in 2026, but it does get pressure tested. What the chart is showing is a fundamental renegotiation of roles, of expectations, of what this partnership looks like in its next chapter. Not an ending, a renegotiation. But at this scale, renegotiations leave marks. The terms of their shared world, financial, creative, and personal, are being quietly rewritten, and the version of the Beckhams that emerges on the other side of this year will not look quite the same as the one that went in. Watch this space. The chart says 2026 will not pass quietly. And this is the part I find most striking of all. In 2028, Victoria enters an entirely new 10-year cycle. The dominant energy of this cycle, what we call rainwater in BaZi, does not represent steady earned income. It represents something of a different nature entirely. Large-scale, non-linear, explosive wealth events. And structurally, this cycle strikes directly against the wealth vault in her chart and forces it open. There's an old saying in Chinese metaphysics, when the wealth vault is struck open, everything stored inside is released. By 2028, Victoria will no longer be the person being consumed by the brand. She will become the person who controls where the wealth flows. those heavy operations that have required constant feeding for nearly 18 years. They are likely to undergo a fundamental transformation in this cycle. In business terms, this typically looks like a brand completing its transition from high overhead operations to a lighter, licensing-based model. Around 2028, I expect to see a significant asset restructuring event, a sale of brand equity, a family wealth settlement, or a major negotiation involving the redistribution of substantial assets. One thing is important to be clear about. This kind of wealth does not arrive quietly. A clash means turbulence. The vault door does not open gently. It opens through what is likely to be a hard process, possibly a full reshuffling of the family's financial architecture. But from the chart's perspective, every pound that has gone into that brand over nearly 18 years has not been lost. It has been accumulating inside the vault. When the door opens after 2028, the number that surfaces will likely exceed anything the outside world currently anticipates. This won't read as a profit and loss story. It will read as an 18-year bet finally paying out. This cycle also carries a specific marker in classical BaZi called the Hua Gai, the solitary star. It signals a deep inward turn, away from external validation and toward the internal definition of legacy. She will likely step back from the center of media attention, but her influence on the aesthetic language of this era will, paradoxically, become more permanent during this very decade. She will not become a footnote labeled former Spice Girl. She will become a reference point for an entire generation's sense of taste. Everything I've shared today was drawn from Victoria's birth year, month, and day alone. No birth time. In BaZi, the birth hour is the fourth pillar, what the classical texts call the gateway of the chart. With a complete birth time, what becomes visible goes far beyond wealth and public life. We see the specific texture of a person's most private fears, the deep threads connecting her to her children, the precise windows, sometimes just a matter of months, when protecting her own energy matters most. When to move forward with full force, when to step back with grace. These answers tend to live in the finest details of a chart. Victoria's chart has always been working in her favor, whether she's aware of it or not. And anyone navigating their own life with that same kind of seriousness deserves access to that same precision.